If you can't set aside an hour or 2 hours a day to build something that you're excited about, you work your entire life. So by the time you retire when you're 70 years old, you just feel burnt out and tired and just defeated almost on a daily basis. You're not burnt out because you're overworked. You're burnt out because you're building someone else's dream. If you're anything like me, going to work at a 9 to 5 job, working in some sort of corporate situation is just probably one of the worst feelings in the world. When I was at my last job, I was hired as a salesman and I was really excited. The CEO was a friend of mine, not a great friend, but a friend. And he told me that I was going to be able to do sales and how much money was on the table and all the potential about this company. And I started getting excited for it, like it was one of my own projects that I was going to be working on. And I started at the job with that same ambition, that same excitement, the same thirst for growing the company as he had. And almost immediately, I got brought back right to reality. You see, I hadn't worked in a corporate sales job before. I'd done a lot of sales, but it was always for my own business. And as soon as I got thrown into that role where I was now a business development representative, wasn't a salesman or whatever title they might have given me, but business development representative. And I was looking at it and I'm like, all right, well, this isn't exactly what I thought. And then I started researching the company and learning the ins and outs of what we were selling and all of this stuff. And I started to develop a plan in my head, starting to make a list of different people I could reach out to at different companies to pitch our idea. And then they told me to wait, hold up, you're not ready yet. So I kept studying, I kept learning, I kept practicing. And then they told me again, wait, you're not ready yet. And what I started to figure out slowly but surely is that I didn't have the corporate background that they were probably looking for. And although the CEO liked my background and having talked to him when he was one of my bar customers, telling him about the different stuff that I'd done and even selling him on an idea I had myself, he saw me in a different light. But then when he was thrust in front of the board and all the other people that worked at the company, and they started looking at what my LinkedIn profile said, probably, they're like, who's this guy? He can't do sales for our company. And I realized pretty quickly that just because I liked his idea and I thought that I was going to be able to be a big part of it, hired on as literally the first salesperson that the company had hired. They were just coming out of launch, early phase startup tech company. And, I was excited, but it wasn't my idea. And I had very little input that I could give to help them with what I saw and what I thought based off my experience in trying to pitch and sell and build companies that I've been a part of before. If you're like me, like I was saying, one of the worst feelings in the world is having to clock into that 9 to 5 every single day. And you just feel burnt out and tired and just defeated almost on a daily basis. If you're working at an office, you got to get up early. Hopefully you're going to the gym first or going to the gym after, driving into work, waiting for your lunch break. I mean, how many hours of actual work are you doing in a real day when you go into the office? Maybe 3, 4, if they're lucky. You're wasting time, you're talking to coworkers, and you just feel like even though you're getting a paycheck and you're maybe saving a little bit of money and possibly even getting ahead, that you're not really building anything out of your life. Like, what is the point of life if you go and work for different companies? It used to be the same company for 40, 50 years, and then you retire, they give you a gold watch and a pension, and you go on a boat cruise in Europe or freaking couple cruises in Alaska. You work your entire life, so by the time you retire when you're 70 years old, what are you really able to do? A lot of 70-year-olds are still very fit. My grandfather, who just passed away a few days ago, died at 98, and up until 6 months ago, he was still walking 2 miles a day. And then cancer got him, like gets so many other people. But it's like at 70 years old, you're not going to do the things that you had really dreamed about doing. Like, one of my dreams is to buy a sailboat and to go sail all around the Caribbean and, see all these islands and palm trees and dolphins and all this cool stuff that's out there. And I'm not going to be able to do that at 70. Maybe you're an avid skier or you have other sports, mountain climbing, hiking, stuff like that you really enjoy. Like, how much of that are you going to really do? I mean, maybe you can do it, but you're not going to do it anywhere near at the level. What are you going to do about it? if you're like me, like I keep saying, if you're like me, you have a thirst to be independent, to build something you're excited about, to be passionate about it. And right now is the best time for you to be capitalizing on that. I'm seeing people left and right that are starting their own companies. There's a guy I saw on X the other day who started, it was actually two different ones. One started a company making putters, another one started a company doing branded apparel, and like they love golf. And he bought a CNC machine and started making putters and selling a good amount of them through promoting his stuff on social media, getting a little bit of a following, selling enough to make a profit, pay the bills, continue not having to go to work for somebody else. And that's what life is really about. You got to find something that you're passionate about and run with it. It's going to take some time possibly before you can just go and quit your job. You have to start building it while you're building at your job at the same time. But if you can give somebody 8 hours plus of your day, how can you not set aside 2 hours for yourself to build your own dream? Think about that. Every single day, you're working that 8-hour shift, Monday through Friday. Plus, you got at least a half an hour commute each way. And then you got to go to the gym and you got to do all this other stuff. You got to take care of your family. You got to do all this stuff. If you can't set aside an hour or 2 hours a day to build something that you're excited about, then you have to change your priorities, because you're going to end up stuck working in that job until you're 70 years old. And unfortunately, another video I saw just the other day, ageism. I'm sure you guys have heard of ageism before. And this guy, he was like 53 years old and he just got laid off and he started looking for work again. And he couldn't even get hired anywhere. People weren't hiring him because he was too old to fit their culture, too old for the company. Well, that may not be legal exactly, but there's a lot of reasons that they can say they don't want to hire you besides the fact that you're too old. So what happens if you work your whole life, you end up getting laid off at a job when you're 50 years old, 55 years old? You still have 15, 20 years that you have to be working still to save for retirement, to start getting Social Security, if it even exists by then. And then all of a sudden, you can't get hired. If you don't start building something now, even if it's small, even if it's on the side, something that you're passionate, you have to have at least one passion. I see all these people that are starting stuff in the golf industry. I love golf. I follow a lot of people on X that are golfers, golf influencers, stuff like that. There's got to be something that you're passionate about that you can find a way to monetize. And even if it takes you, like me with this YouTube channel, 5 years of putting in consistent effort every week to get it to the point where you can now replace an income through that, then you're just not doing yourself any favors. The whole goal of life is to live, be fulfilled, to help others, to make a stamp on the universe. If you're just droning away at a job 5 days a week, living for the weekends, I think you're going to be sad in 20, 15, maybe even 5 years when you realize that the work isn't fulfilling enough and you don't have enough saved and could have taken these chances. You could have done something. Everybody on their deathbed always says that they wish they took the risk. They took a chance on this one thing or another, one idea or another that they had. So all I'm saying to you is don't be that guy who ends up being old and gray and in his last weeks and has regrets because he didn't try. Just pick something that you love and give it a shot, and give it a real shot. A couple years, a few years of putting in effort, an hour a day, 2 hours a day on the side, 2-3 hours on the weekends on the side, outside of all your other family activities and obligations, and go for it, because otherwise you're going to end up having regrets. And like I said in the beginning, today is the age with social media, being able to build a personal brand, being able to launch a business. There's never been a better time to be able to pull this off than it is right now. In 5 or 10 years, it might be a little bit more saturated, but right now it's kind of like the best time where social media has gotten to this level. AI has gotten to this level where it can help you. You can outsource to bring on some sort of virtual assistant to help you to eliminate some of the effort that you have to put in, where they can do some of the mundane tasks. Like, there's just so many opportunities for you to do this. I humbly ask you that if you haven't started yet and you're really thinking about it, now is the time. Write the idea down on paper, start to develop a plan, and just launch it. And it might take you 2-3 years, but you'd be surprised if you put in 3, 4, 5 years of effort, what it could turn into. You might be disappointed after 6 months or a year, but if you really give it a good 5 years, you might be really impressed with what you were able to create. With that said, I got a Skool community that we're going to be doing our first live sort of meetup. Not really a coaching call, but it's really small still. So I want to hear other people in their one-person business ideas, what you're doing to grow it, whether it be YouTube or other ways. And I want to build a community there of people that are driving for something else, that are trying to expand their life and and all that stuff. So there'll be a link down in the comments and in the description. I'd love to have you over there. It's completely free for now. So take advantage of it. We're going to do a weekly Zoom where we can all hang out, talk about ideas, kind of, just think of it as a mastermind. And I'm sure you're going to get some ideas for it of what you can do to change your life and to build something that you're more passionate about. So thank you guys, and I will see you on the next video.